This is Cassandra Hodnott speaking, a student at Seneca York, saying news. So today I have a guest speaker with me named Cynthia Watt. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining me today. And for the ones that are listening in, I just have a few questions that I wanted to ask. The first question is, can you please explain to me and others listening in to what Amapceo is about and where you step in to help as the vice president?
Thanks a lot, Cassandra. It's lovely to see you today and happy to talk about Amapceo. We are a union for Ontario's professional employees. We represent over 14,000 professional and supervisory public servants, most of whom work within the Ontario Public Service as civil servants in every ministry and in a number of agencies, boards and commissions. We're in over 130 communities across the province and in 11 cities outside of Canada, actually. So as vice president, I am a member of our executive committee, our board of directors, as well as our annual delegates conference, which in a union context is our supreme body, if you will. And I share some of the leadership responsibilities with the president, CEO, also fulfill any duties that he designates me to do. And I also assume any other responsibilities as assigned by either the annual delegates conference or the board or the executive. I sit at central labor relations tables for the Ontario Public Service, as well as the multi-bargaining agents tables. Within the public service, I've led our education initiatives as well as our equity initiatives and employee relations committee standardization efforts. So that's a bit of a snapshot, a little bit of everything, if you will.
Yes, thank you so much for narrowing down everything that Amapceo does and what you do. That kind of goes into my next question, because there are so many people that work within the union and with you and everything. I've been noticing on the page it mentioned about some changes within the workplace. And as of November 1st, would you be able to tell us a little bit more what it was that they were explaining about?
Sure, happy to do that, Cassandra. So what you're referring to is what's happening in our Ontario Public Service unit. As I mentioned, it's our largest unit. We have well over 14,000 members there. And as of March 2020, our members, as well as us as a union, we all pivoted to remote work. And so from that point in time on, both us as a union, we've been delivering our services virtually from people's homes, if you will, as have the vast majority of our members. They've had the privilege, if you will, of being able to work remotely and carry out their duties. Well, what has now happened is the decision's been taken by the employer, which they have every right, and every collective agreement that a union has with its employer has a designated section called management rights. And in management rights, that's where employers get to define where you work, how you work, and what your hours are. And so our employer in the OPS unit has decided that as of November 1st, everybody's going to gradually return to the workplace. So they are, each member of the public service is working with their management team to designate 1 day a week or 2 days a week, or maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month. Like, it's all dependent on where the person works, what the physical layout is of the facilities, because we are trying to abide by, we are going to be abiding by all public health measures. So there's a need for physical distancing, et cetera, and vaccine disclosure, et cetera. So lots going on. And so November 1st was the day for our largest unit to return to the workplace.
Oh, that's awesome. And it sounds so great to see that there's been things put in place to help within the community. And that kind of goes into my follow-up to how much has Amapceo seen the impact that COVID-19 has done on the public health, mental health care part of things?
Well, Cassandra, it's a very good question. And in large part, it's hard not to notice what's happening in terms of the public's mental health. I think we've all bore witness to the studies and the surveys and the different reports that have come out over the course of the pandemic and what it said about people's eroding mental health. For us as a union, we've always been tuned into mental health. And we, as a union that represents largely white collar workers, we have delivered courses to our reps. So we have what we call workplace representatives, and most other unions, they refer to them as stewards, but we call them workplace reps or WPRs. And it's their role and function to help support members in the workplace. So we've been for quite some time now delivering mental health courses to them, because they're the key supports that help our members through workplace issues. So anyways, I know I didn't quite directly answer your question, but point being is this isn't new to us. It's like the bigger problem is the lack of government investment, I might argue, in mental health services, although there was a really paltry amount put in the latest fall economic statement. It's not going to be anywhere near what we're going to need as we pull out of this pandemic.
Right. Right. I think that kind of also leaned into my next question, was that what actions have been taking place with the mental health care system for the public who have been suffering in the mental health since COVID-19 and the lockdowns. And I was going to ask, like, have there been any more positive outcomes that have happened? Like you were mentioning programs, I believe, or courses to help. Is there anything else that comes to mind that has been positive and helpful?
Well, I know that as as a society, things have evolved, and so certain help organizations have evolved their services, if you will. And you can see I have a guest behind me. Maggie, we're being recorded, just so you know.
Oh,
she has to say hello to the cat. Your cousin's waving to you. Anyways. So, sorry, we just outed you for your teacher there, Cassandra.
Okay.
Anyways, so where was I going with this? What we've seen is some interesting things evolve, where organizations that provided service on a physical basis have moved to remote and have expanded their services. So kind of tied to this, but not quite directly tied to it, is there's an organization that assists women who are dealing with trauma in their family and, are trying to escape violence in their home. They found that early in the pandemic, it got worse, as we all expected, because people had nowhere to go and there were lots of normal services that weren't available in the way they once were. But what they found is that and this is, I will use gender pronouns just to make it simple, but it was largely men using the courts against women to keep the children during the pandemic. And so organizations were set up then to respond in a virtual way to support these women through this. And as a union, we started to funnel some of our savings because we've saved money during the pandemic. We haven't been delivering our in-person conferences or all of our in-person training that we normally would do. And so we've moved to virtual, which has saved us money over the course of the last year. So we've actually donated a lot of money to these types of services and helplines and that kind of thing, because we think it's really important, especially during these times, that we support those who need the help.
I think that's amazing. Like, that's such a positive outcome with the amount of donation that is being put out, and that has money been saved. So that's very, very positive, and glad to hear about that. I would also lastly say, with everything that was just said, how have the numbers been since we've had the vaccine? And do you see life turning back somewhat normal again anytime soon?
I don't know about soon, and what would we define as normal, right? Like, I think it depends on where you live and how you're going to think about things, I think, too. So I'm in Ajax, I commute to Toronto. I think that mask wearing is going to become normalized. Even once we move from the pandemic state to the endemic state, which is what we call it when we learn to live with it, versus having a lot of extraneous public health measures in place during a pandemic. And so having said all of that, the vaccine's been truly a miracle. It's hard not to, thank the Lord. It's a blessing that we were able to deliver something so quickly, considering how transmittable this disease has become, how it's evolved and become even more transmissible, and that for those who get really ill from it, they get deathly ill. Like, truly deathly ill. And so it's really it's a miracle that we're at a point where we can deliver so much to so many in such a little period of time. But sadly, we've seen the numbers start to go up again now, and even the weekly averages have increased quite significantly. And we have the science table as of today asking for clawbacks and capacity numbers and for people to continue to remote work. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, whether or not our employers respond to this. As a union, those are the things we look to. And as an employer, because we employ 50 staff, we're very committed as an employer to be a good employer. So we're not interested in forcing people back when we're currently at this stage. But you know, at the same time, we can't fight those who want to return our members to the workplace because they have management rights, and it isn't a true health and safety crisis as some may believe it to be in terms of the workplace, as long as all public health measures are in place and being followed.
Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for answering all my questions. And overall, it's nice to see that you guys are really putting in the work and making sure things are put in place for the public and helping the public. And I really appreciate the time that you took to answer all my questions. This will be the ending of our interview. I am Cassandra Hodnott signing off. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Cassandra.